Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of day you're watching this or listening to this. If it's sometimes just turn off the video may improve the quality of the audio recording. My name is Andrew Richardson, second year PhD student in the School of Social Sciences, Humanities and Law. Um, as your students who have listened to the previous talks on like periodization, these are some notes I had left over from it and they couldn't really put them in, but again, they still apply to it. And this just goes a bit more in depth into the literature around strength training, and just want to give you a bit more in-depth knowledge around some of the definitions and terminology and the different types of strength there is out there. So, without further ado, I'll just crack on with this. But I'm trying a different way of presenting this. So it's still done in Microsoft Teams as I've done before. However, I'm not sharing my screen in terms of showing it. This is built into it. So hopefully this comes out okay for you all. If not, I'll just revert back to the previous way I was doing it. So again, this is, as I said, just to describe the different types of strength training, many forms, a bit more in depth, start to talk a bit more hypertrophy training, strength training benefits for people versus sort of athletes, kind of the differences, and some like strength sports and the different types of strength sports out there. So what is strength? So strength in its own can be defined as the ability to exert a force against a resistance, or in sports science, which is the preferred context of this class, is the ability to exert force under a variety of biomechanical conditions using the muscular and neuromuscular systems. That was Carroll 2001 Sports Medicine. Remember, strength is just one component of fitness, and which can have a great effect on all the others as well as the rest of them, affecting strength itself. E.g., flexibility and endurance have the greatest effect on strength, and strength has the greatest effect on them too. So the picture here we've got is Ilya Ilin, a weightlifter from Kazakhstan, won many gold medals in weightlifting at World Championships and the Olympics. And a picture of Milo, which is a famous strength magazine. So different types in terms of strength. So strength can be split into many different forms as shown below. We got general strength, which is the foundation of the entire strength training program. It must be the sole focus of the early training phase of anatomical adaptation. That's its definition. You've got specific strength, which is the strength of only those muscles, mainly the prime movers that are particular to the movement of a selected sport. A maximum strength refers to the highest force that can be performed by the neuromuscular system during a maximum contraction. So, for example, a powerlifter here will cover these two of specific strength, and also the strength of its legs and the posterior chain. Strength of only those muscles, mainly the prime movers, your quadriceps, your glutes, whatnot, to the movements of a selected sport, being powerlifting. And the sport of powerlifting is maximal strength. Try and lift as much weight as you physically can in one rep. So that's maximum strength being your 1 rep max, which refers to the highest force that can be performed by a neuromuscular system during a maximum contraction. I think those two apply to that very, very well. But then we've got different ones coming in here. So you think absolute strength, which is the maximum force that can be exerted regardless of a body weight size. So going for a new deadlift PB or squat PB in our example for 1 rep max. So again, absolute strength does cover that too. It's just interesting just to make you aware there are a number of definitions out there which you may get confused with if you just don't know the background to them. Then we've got power as the correct pronunciation, but if you're from Northern Ireland, we'll call it power. It's called power. So when you hear me say power, that's what you know we're talking about. So power is the product of two abilities, that's strength and speed, and it's considered to be the ability to apply maximum force in the shortest time. Then you got muscular endurance, which is defined as a muscle's ability to sustain work for a prolonged period without the onset of fatigue. So like cycling, rowing, it could be one. Again, the picture here, we've got a weightlifter. I believe he's a weightlifter from the 77-kilogram class from China. Very, very talented athlete, very good back squat and front squat. And here's doing the clean as part of the clean and jerk movement. And obviously, the likes of absolute strength and power would come the class his sport as well. But then obviously going back, maximal strength and specific strength, they too do cover his sport too. So again, just bear that in mind. Continuing on, we've got relative strength, represents the ratio between absolute strength and body weight. More important in sports with weight categories. So now we're really delving into it. So those sports are like, you've got judo, powerlifting, weightlifting, MMA, boxing. You've got relative strength going from across all the weight categories and how the strength changes between them. Yes, you're going to get very strong athletes going through the continuum, but it's going to get a point where body weight's really going to play into it, and it's going to shoot those strength levels way up. Strength reserve is the difference between absolute strength and the amount of strength required to perform a skill under competitive conditions. Again, interesting definition there. And we've got dynamic strength, ability to exert muscular force repeatedly. So an example would be rowing a regatta event about 1,000 meters or 2,000 meters or 2,500, depending on the race. But generally, most rowing events competitively on the circuit is 2Ks. Hence, you've got 2K erg tests on your Concept 2 rowing machines. Again, continuing on, there's a couple more still. We've got elastic strength, which is similar to power, and that could be doing a box jump. We've got static strength, it's the ability to exert a sustained force without a significant movement. That could be a gymnastics crucifix hold. And we got plosive strength, ability to exert a maximal force quickly in one action, such as the javelin or the shot put. But again, I would class weightlifting as explosive strength as well. And elastic strength, you could come under that too. There's a bit of elastic strength there too. So you can see how the different things would change over. So strength endurance, the ability of a muscle to resist fatigue while exerting a force, marathon running. Strength relates a lot to force, as you've heard me just say, and force is defined as an instantaneous measure of the interaction between two bodies. Force manifests itself in two ways. Either the movement of a body is changed or the body is deformed, or both. Force is a vector quantity and is characterized by three attributes: magnitude, direction, and point of application. All movements are performed over a certain span of time, and that entire force time continuum, not just the force at a given instant of time, is typical what interest coaches and or athletes have. Very technical, very physics, very maths. To put simply, the strength is related to the magnitude. So like that could be the intensity, like how much weight. The directions, like where are we like going, and the point of application, I would class it as like how the movement's performed, like how you're doing the application of it. So that could be powerlifting, 1 rep max, all the way in your back, you can ever lift. Direction, up and down in a sagittal plane. Point of application, it's a squat. That should make that a little bit easier for you all there. Again, this is the gymnastics crucifix hold. So as you mentioned a few like slides here, this would be like static strength holding. Again, could be isometric as well, just holding it to, again, another terminology we have here. So the main three types of strength that you need to know. So you've got strength, endurance. So strength can be broken down into three different areas for simplicity. Endurance, the ability to effectively maintain muscular function under work conditions of long duration. And athletes depend this component include rock climbers, Olympic Greco-Roman wrestling, and gymnasts on the rings. Then got absolute strength, the maximum force a muscle or muscles groups can generate at a specified velocity. And this would be, your power sports. And obviously, this would be, absolute strength. After defining that, you then got element of power with that, which is explosive power, which is the force applied multiplied. And then rhymes applied and multiplied by movement velocity. And the athletes dependent on it is absolute strength, which include Olympic weightlifters and powerlifters. Apologies, I just made a mistake there. It goes absolute, so it goes endurance, absolute strength, power. So they are your three. So absolute strength, you're looking at more powerlifters. And the power, you're looking at more Olympic weightlifters, and endurance, looking for more, let's say, rock climbers and the gymnastic athletes. So they're your three different types. Apologies, just read the slide a little bit wrong there. Then we've got hypertrophy training. And this is the building enlargement of a muscle, particularly skeletal muscle. And it can be divided into two forms of hypertrophy: sarcoplasmic and myofibril. And why is it used? Hypertrophy training is used to build psi, which is the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. This increases the area of the muscle, which in turn increases strength, force, power. Then doing myofibril hypertrophy, this will increase the speed and strength of muscle contractions. Both are necessary to help improve one's performance. What is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy? This is the more bodybuilding type, and this is an increase in the volume of the non-contractile muscle cell fluid, sarcoplasm. This fluid accounts for 25 to 30% of the muscle size, although the cross-sectional area of the muscle increases. The density of muscle fibers per unit area decreases, and there is no increase in muscular strength. This type of hypertrophy is mainly a result of high-rep bodybuilding type training. The sarcoplasm of a muscle fiber is comparable to the cytoplasm of other cells, but it houses unusually large amounts of glycogens, granules of stored glycogen, and significant amounts of myoglobin, an oxygen-binding protein. The calcium concentration in sarcoplasm is also a special element of the muscular fiber by means of which the contractions take place and regulate. It contains mostly myofibrils, which are composed of sarcomeres, but its contents are otherwise comparable to those of the cytoplasm of other cells. It has a Golgi apparatus near the nuclei, mitochondria just on the inside of the cytoplasmic membrane or sarcolemma, as well as a smooth endoplasmic reticulum organized in an extensive network. So what is myofibril hypertrophy or sport-specific hypertrophy? Myofibril hypertrophy, on the other hand, is an enlargement of the muscle fiber as it gains more myofibrils, which contract and generate tension in the muscle. With this type of hypertrophy, the area density of myofibrils increases and there is a significantly greater area ability to exert muscular strength. Interesting enough, the slide's not coming up. Okay, let me just get the slides. See, I'll stop presenting and come back in. Session still being recorded. Yep, still being recorded. Share screen, browse PowerPoints. Just bear with technical issue. One slide's just not showing up. Almost loaded. Okay. See, okay, still loading. Okay, what I can do is I can share my screen to the actual PowerPoint itself. Let's see. Oh, I think we're getting somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Okay, it's still not showing. Okay, again, do apologize. I will just show up on the screen. Dismiss. Here we go. This should be easier. Yep, there we go. So this is the slide here that was meant to come up. So continuing on, this type of hypertrophy is best accomplished by training with the heavy weights for low reps. Again, this is the myofibril style training for hypertrophy. A myofibril, also known as a muscle fibril, is a basic rod-like unit of muscle. Muscles are composed of tubular cells called myocytes, also known as muscle fibers, and these cells in turn contain many chains of myofibrils. They are created during an embryo development in a process called myogenesis. Myofibrils are composed of long proteins such as actin, myosin, and tintin, and other proteins that hold them together. These proteins are organized into thin filaments and thick filaments, which repeat along the length of the myofibril in sections called sarcomeres. Muscles contract by sliding thin actin and thick myosin filaments along each other. Contractile myofibril versus sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. As I mentioned earlier in this presentation, one of the more bodybuilding style of training, sarcoplasmic, the latter used to develop faster and stronger contractile forces, sport-specific or myofibril hypertrophy, think of it as the contractile heavy lifting such as powerlifting reps 1 to 6. The intensity is a lot higher. The sarcoplasmic as German volume style training, intensity is lower but at a higher volume, more sets and reps, shorter rest periods. Both are interdependent to each other. As one improves, so too the other. I get stronger, my muscle mass in some way will increase, or if I get bigger, my strength will increase in some way too as well. Should be said though, it is easier to put on size rather than strength. That's why you see great big bodybuilders but are a lot weaker than powerlifters and Olympic weightlifters. The minimum threshold to build muscle. You must do the minimum threshold amount of work to build muscle. Muscle growth occurs through mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. In plain English, in every workout, we are trying to induce a training response to gain an adaptation to make us better. That may be to lift more weight, increase muscle mass, or to get better at tolerating lactic acid. This is where the principle of progressive overload comes in. You're trying to beat your previous best, and doing so means your body has adapted and a new baseline has been set. To beat this baseline, you must train at a slightly higher intensity, frequency, more reps, more weight, and volume to achieve this, as it will be harder than the previous one. So different types of strength sports rely on different variations of strength, as we've just covered in this short presentation. So we've got powerlifting, weightlifting, shot put, discus, hammer, javelin, strongman, Highland games, tug of war, arm wrestling are all sports that require strength of different types. There's a great video and series by the National Geographic, and they did a series on superhuman strength, which compared a weightlifter, powerlifter, strongman, and a couple of twins who just break stuff with their heads, and a guy who can bend many objects. All very strong, but different types of strength. Each tried to do the other's strength task, and they all failed. But why did they fail? Even though they're very strong, they just all didn't have the technical ability to do those tasks. And all these athletes have to peak for competitions, which, talking about peaking, we covered in periodization into creating a good training program. So you can see this is just all the other stuff that's kind of the background to the periodization lecture, which we did earlier. Again, I hope you find this useful. Social media, all here, LinkedIn, email, Twitter, Instagram, whatnot. Again, that was just a quick rundown of everything there. I hope you all found it useful, and any questions, just give me a shout. Thank you very much. Take care. Look after yourselves.